Family, like so many of you, has proudly been part of Broncos country.
Every season, we feel the energy, passion, and commitment that defines this team.
And now we are honored to be the official injury law firm partner of the Denver Broncos.
Ramos Law. What makes us different makes us better.
Hey everybody, we are coming up on 5 o'clock here. I am Matt Meister. It's been a long day. Did some forecasting early, did the morning show, and then went out to the Aspen Acres fire. We were invited, the first sort of local news type outlet to be invited into the fire. But before we get to that, I do want to talk about a flash flood warning that is up for the Aspen Acres fire. We'll take you to Tamco Live radar, and you can see we've got some thunderstorms that have been moving through the area. An outflow boundary from previous storms came in from the east about an hour ago. You'll kind of see this thin line heading into the fire right there. And that increased thunderstorm activity, particularly over the southern end of the fire. And I'm going to take the radar off here, let you see where the cells are right now, kind of on the north end of the fire. But if I take that off, you see the cell up to the north here, just to the west of Highway 96, is not actually impacting the fire. It's the cell on the southern end that has put some decent rain down on top of the fire. In fact, over just the last hour on the southern end of the fire, we have had more than an inch of rain that radar is estimating. And so Muddy Creek in particular, some of the drainages that we are most concerned about here. There was some rain earlier to the west of Beulah that we are also concerned about. But one of the things that we are going to talk about here over the next several days and weeks is the susceptibility of this fire and of this burn scar to not be able to hold water. And when I was in there today, I can tell you that it obviously burned very, very hot in places, and there are signs that the soils are hydrophobic. The burn is hydrophobic, meaning that it can't take water in. It's afraid of water, if you will. So I want to give you a quick update here on the Aspen Acres fire. It is 15% contained. That's mainly on the east side. It's over 96,000 acres now. They continue to do additional dozer and handline work. And the first place that I stopped when we got into the fire was in Wetmore and Greenwood this morning. And where you see that newly burned area, if you were watching a couple of the last official updates that they've done, the video updates have been posting on Facebook, the official fire page on InsaWeb. This is the area that they have been most concerned with, particularly for Greenwood here. There's a little saddle that is just to the southeast of town. There are dozer lines on there, and they have crews that are climbing the hillsides to fight the fire. There is hoses that are run all over the place. There are retardant drops that have been done above town there. And I want to play for you now what we saw when we were in there earlier this morning. And then Mary is going to join us here in a little bit. This is a Peaks2Plains Weather exclusive from inside the Aspen Acres fire lines. Well, we're in the Aspen Acres fire. We're here with the Custer County Sheriff, and we are on County Road 388, just to the southeast of Wetmore. CAL FIRE is here. You can see they've got lines cut to protect the community of Wetmore. They've got lines running all the way up the hillsides, way up there where crews are way up high, putting out hot spots. That's on one end of this complex. We've got the Helena hot shots from Montana that are here. Some of the Pike hot shots from Colorado are here as well. They've got other lines cut up, and you can see way up there, there are crews all the way up there putting out hot spots. So these are the dozer lines that they've talked about in their recent updates that they've been doing and posting on Facebook. And these lines are really, really important to protect Wetmore and Greenwood here on the north end of the fire. That has been one of the more active areas over the last few days. If we come back this way, you'll be able to see this valley that is charred right now, and there are still wisps of smoke that are back in there burning. The whole hillside is burned. There's a ranch farther in here that one of the firefighters from CAL FIRE told me they lost a barn, but they were able to save the home. So this is some of the devastation here. This is on the northern part of the Aspen Acres fire, the area that's been highest priority over the last couple days. So Mary, obviously it was very, very, stark to get in there and to see that work happening, the lines that the dozers have done, and then all of the firefighters who've been sleeping next to their trucks overnight up on the hillsides like ants, and they just had hoses run for miles and miles along the dozer lines so that when hot spots developed next to the dozer lines, they could put that out. And again, it's all in an effort to save Greenwood and Wetmore, and was pretty amazing to see that. We were in there at about 9:30 this morning, kind of before things really started waking up a little bit in the late morning and early afternoon on the fire.
I want to ask you, were you able to, were there any parts of the fire that were still really, really active? Obviously, you wouldn't be able to get into those areas, but
right.
Did you spend most of your time kind of on that northwestern flank?
No, well, we didn't. After we shot what you just saw right there, we went down to deeper into the fire and closer to the origin area of the fire. And while we were driving and the temperatures were warming up, the sheriff deputy that we were with, who was amazing, Ryan Hunter, who took us around, was talking on the radio with other sheriff deputies because it looked like there was something burning because it was black smoke, and that they were talking to each other like, what is back there? Is there a structure back there over that second ridge? And we were listening to them, and then when we were coming back and on our way to West Cliff, so about 90 minutes later, that was an active plume, and I think was the hottest burning part of the fire today. But that would have been to the west of Beulah and kind of right in the middle of the fire. And it was interesting to see everything change in those 4 hours that we were out there, because hillsides, when we first drove by, that looked like the fire was out, when we came back the second time, there were smoke, little plumes all over the place as the fire was kind of waking up. And when we were talking to Deputy Hunter, he was talking about how everything looks different on an almost hourly basis, certainly when he's out there one day versus the next day. And so this fire grows and changes. And I think that's one of the things that is difficult for the firefighters that are out working the line.
Walk us through what you mean, like expand on that a little bit more in terms of how it changed over those 4 hours.
Right.
Kind of walk us through that, because I'm kind of curious.
Sure. Well, because this video right now, it doesn't look all that bad, right? Like the sky looks pretty clear. Everybody was commenting on how much better the sky looked this morning, and you see parts like that where it doesn't look like there's any heat in that. But an hour after we shot this same valley had a number of smoke plumes in it. And almost like little geysers, if you've ever been to Yellowstone, there's how it kind of started changing in that way. And so what they described to me is that sometimes, in the mornings when it's the coolest part of the day, things look okay. And then the atmosphere starts moving around, the air starts moving around, temperatures start warming up, and you'll get what are wisps like this that end up being areas of flame later in the day. And you can see some of the firefighters there on the road that were going to attack that with side-by-sides and things. It was fascinating to watch them work, and how many of them were literally, like, that's a dozer line back behind those trucks right there that just went up the side of the mountain. And so that's what they're counting on to stop the fire. And there's hoses that you can't really see there that are kind of up the side of the hill as well, Mary. And they just have people all over the place, and you see them, they'll pick up the hose and they'll start putting it out, and then they're in there moving dirt around and that sort of thing, almost like when you try to cover up a campfire with dirt. It's not fancy work by any stretch. It's really hard work, but it's what we have to fight fires, and was incredible to see them do that.
It makes me think. Well, first I want to say this. I want to back up. The one thing I noticed was there are areas where the ground is completely charred, and then there's other areas where you can see it crowned in the trees a lot, but not necessarily on the ground, where it doesn't look as charred. I wonder how that impacts flash flooding, right? Because we're talking about years, a burn scar of 96,000 acres. We're talking about years and years of flash flooding concerns. It's going to take a while, but I kind of wonder with how hot it burned down to the floor, right?
Right.
Are certain areas more susceptible because of that? I mean,
Yeah,
what are
well,
your
and we
thoughts?
saw that change. I did shoot a piece when we were kind of around the St. Charles Trail, and we'll air that tomorrow morning. But it was obvious that it was an area where it had burned hotter. And so we stopped, we got out, and I did a little explainer on that because, I mean, there's nothing on the forest floor there. And so you know that that was a hot part of the burn and is highly hydrophobic part of the burn. And then there's other parts you can see where there was more vegetation that the fire had kind of maybe lazily cruised through there almost. And so those areas may not be as susceptible. Yesterday, you know this, the Weather Service had a meeting with everybody to kind of prepare for today. And, you know, we do have that flash flood warning. And they talked about the need for when it's safe to get into the burn area to do a better analysis on that, because there are so many creeks and drainages in this area, and they're all going to have some slightly different responses, I think, to what the heat of the burn was. And so as they issue flash flood warnings here, while still an active fire area and there are still crews in there, and the National Forest Service hasn't been able to get a burn area recovery team in there, like there's unknown that they're having to deal with. And so there are some pretty low thresholds like we saw today and like we had talked about. You know, a quarter inch is the threshold that they have. That's not a lot of rain, but they're erring on the side of caution because they just don't know where the most susceptible parts are yet.
That's interesting. Well, that answers the question then, right? I mean, water is going to find the path of least resistance. And so when you get up into these hillsides and you've got all this charred ground, and then you have, other areas that are not as charred, you're going to have different responses. But debris flow, you know, a lot of these people live in valleys. If they're to return to their property and try to rebuild, you know, gosh, to think that like on the other side of this, they could be dealing with rapid debris flow is, you know,
it almost doesn't seem fair.
Not great.
Right?
It doesn't seem fair. That's a great way to put it.
One of the other areas that we went to was in a valley, like you just talked about, and it was very near where the fire started, and it is where the first homes, in some cases, they're homes that are in, people live in year-round. In some cases, they're like summer cabins, was the Aspen Acres area, and it was really, really stark to see, and we were talking to Deputy Hunter about what he and his crew were trying to do that day to help people get out. And here's what we saw in that area. We're in Aspen Acres near the origin of the fire, and some of the initial devastation you can see back on the hillsides where the fire crossed Highway 165 moving up towards St. Charles Peak, and there's still some hot spots back in there. And it's just amazing to be in this residential area where some of the power lines are even melted here, right next to something pretty amazing. Because about 40 yards away, while one family has to start over, one family returns to a cabin that is untouched. That's the nature of the Aspen Acres fire and of all wildfires. And Mary, it was literally 40 yards. Like I could have thrown a football from the one cabin that was burned to the other one. And we saw that across the neighborhood. So there are some places that if you didn't see the trees next to it that were burnt, you'd never know anything happened. And then there were multiple places in there where people don't have anything to come back to.
I mean, you know, I think it's unexplainable, so I don't even want to ask how you explain that, because I don't think you can. I think, but it does make you curious, like, because that's not 40 yards is not that far. You got some incredible footage. It certainly tells the story, and to see that power line that you were holding there was just a stark reminder of how incredibly hot that fire was burning.
And
it's not burning that hot right now, though.
Right.
I mean, right?
Yeah, it is. There are spots where it's certainly hot. And then there are spots where, when we were walking around, we didn't really feel any heat at all. But the fire hasn't been actively in that area for a while. So like we said, it's kind of alive and growing and changing. And I think the sense at this point is that electric lines may have played a role in the fire. I mean, they were getting 100-mile-an-hour wind up there. Which is really rare for the time of year, right? Like that's more of a spring sort of thing when we get that kind of wind. But it caused some issues and changed things really, really quick in that area.
Wow. That's incredible. That's hard to believe almost.
Yeah, it is. We have a couple other things that we will be showing on Peaks2Plains Weather. We also went to Westcliff and we did an interview with Sheriff Rich Smith, who invited us into the fire today. They've been using some of the maps that Peaks2Plains has been putting out to kind of help them understand where the fire is. He talked about the 3 dimensions, how that's a little bit more useful sometimes than, some of the paper that they get. And we spent about 5 minutes chatting with him, and he started looking forward a little bit, talking about when people can start at least getting back into their homes to grab some things before they start, returning to live. We talked a little bit about that. He talked about what the community is going through and kind of how the sense on the ground is now. So I'll have that tomorrow morning on our live Mornings with Meister that starts at 6:30. And I know, you have to take off here, Mary, but before you do, is there anything else that you've been thinking about that from our exclusive time inside the fire today, I might be able to answer?
I worry about, I worry about as people return home, and I know we're not there yet, are they going to be able to get these warnings effectively for flash flood warnings? I will tell you this. Social sciences tells us that people don't respond very well to flash flood warnings because they can come a lot, right? Like hotcakes. And sometimes you experience just an onslaught of warnings and then nothing happens. And so that kind of stays in your mind. But this is one of those scenarios where you have to take them all so seriously. And how are they going to get those warnings? Are they going to be briefed on those warnings, how to respond? Because oftentimes when people have flash flood warnings, they're like, okay, you're telling me a flash flood is coming. I'm not seeing anything. What do you want me to do?
Right.
We always say you seek higher ground, but I think following through with a plan, especially for this community that I feel like is left very vulnerable, is now going to be what we have to focus on. To make sure those people stay safe, because they're going to eventually return to these homes. They're going to be dealing with these flash flood warnings for years to come.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And the sheriff and his crew in the Emergency Operations Center are already starting to talk about this. They have some evacuation areas that they had identified given terrain and population centers in Custer County. And they're starting to transition that toward flood and flood evacuation plans. So it certainly is something that they're aware of, that they are looking ahead to, and that they know there's probably going to have to be community meetings about that. And I think one of the challenges that people may have in that area is that they may go back to different communication abilities than when they left. Like some of the communication towers in the area, I know didn't make it through the fire already, and they're concerned about some other ones. So if someone is returning to a cabin or a home that didn't burn in the fire, and they used to be able to get cell signal okay, they may not now. And so there are a myriad of issues that these places are going to have to deal with for sure.
Yeah, we just can't, we've seen it all too often as meteorologists. We leave, flash flood warnings seems to be, some of the most deadliest weather we talk about, yet we don't really know. It's not the same kind of response that a community has if they had a tornado warning. So it's not, we have to make sure that we kind of follow through with that for those people and for their sake. They've already been through so much. Yeah. So I think you got some incredible stuff today.
There's going to be so many of them in this case because of the burn that it is going to, I think understandably so, be easy to, in a way, maybe become complacent. And so I think that's something that you and I are going to have to focus on is is giving specific information, and we're already working on maps behind the scenes that can get us into these individual drainages, show us who's downstream, the roads that are impacted, because I think, a ridge separating a couple of different drainages is going to make a difference, especially when it's, the 20th flash flood warning that's maybe been issued in the course of a month and a half or something like that. So it is a long way to go. I was talking to some of these firefighters today when we were at our first stop, and they were saying how this thing is going to burn all summer. Like it may end up contained, but we are not going to be able to get to all of the parts of it given where the terrain is and where it's burning. And so there's going to be this kind of weird transition process from fire to flooding, and some days it's going to go like that, and then we'll get maybe this dry, windy stretch, and the fire starts becoming a bigger story. It's going to be real interesting to watch that community have to deal with this for the rest of the summer, and as you said, for the years ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great job today, and kind of telling the story. It's important for our viewers, and we got a lot of work ahead of us too here on Peaks2Plains to make sure that we are communicating as effectively as possible. We do. Well, I appreciate you being in there this afternoon and doing this with me and having this conversation. Hopefully it's helpful for everybody. I'm going to do a little bit of weather right now. So Mary, we will see you a little bit later on. And I'm going to talk about what we've got here for the next few days in terms of thunderstorms, and then what we have as we head toward the weekend, because the pattern is going to change up a little bit. And it's all driven by this area of high pressure that this time of year we watch. It is the southwest monsoon. We've got some slightly cooler air up to the north that is going to get here as we head toward the end of the week, sneak underneath this ridge. But it's the big clockwise flow around the ridge here that is bringing moisture up into the Great Basin and then bringing it over Colorado. Now, not only have we increased the moisture in the mid levels of the atmosphere over the last few days, but we've increased it at the surface as well. You can see some of our big mountain valleys have dew points that are in the mid 30s to low 40s. It doesn't match the moisture that we have over the plains, which is why we have a severe thunderstorm watch up right now, and we have the threat for severe weather for the next couple of days. The storms, as they move away from the mountains, are going to tap this low-level moisture, and they will get stronger than what we have over the plains. But we've got a severe thunderstorm watch right now for a good chunk of eastern Colorado until 8 o'clock tonight. And you can see that there are some storms that have severe thunderstorm warnings on them off to the east of Denver right now, and still a couple out across the far eastern plains here. So if we bring up the radar and we check this out, right on the Colorado and Kansas line, and the severe thunderstorm warning is mainly into Kansas, although we still have one off to the southeast of Sheridan Lake. That is in effect here over the next little bit. It is for some wind gusts to 60 miles per hour and for some $half sized hail. This storm is located about 10 miles to the south of Towner. So this is along Highway 96 here. This is in southeastern Kiowa County. And then the very northeastern part of Prowers County is included in this as well. And this storm has been moving off to the north here at about 10 miles per hour. So that's going to take it up toward Highway 96 over the next half hour, and we'll bring it toward the Towner area. So that's something that we will continue to watch. If we check out SkyCast and take you through the remainder of the overnight, here's what we've got on the way here as we start to move toward our Thursday. So I'm going to take you now into the evening here and show you where we think the storms are going to go. So it's done a pretty good job on the model today, firing storms up over the mountains. It did miss the storm that fired up in Crowley County, moved toward La Junta earlier with a severe thunderstorm warning. It had the idea there, it just missed the placement of it a little bit. But it's doing a pretty good job here of gradually shifting things east as we move into the evening. And so, we lose the heating of the sun, we'll lose the energy in the atmosphere, and we'll start to lose the thunderstorms. But as we head into tomorrow,
we kind of recharge everything. So we're back into the mid-90s along the Arkansas River, some upper 90s. You get closer to Kansas. Our mountain valleys, again, will be in the upper 80s. And for the second day in a row, we have the chance of some severe thunderstorms. Now, the moisture is a little closer to the hills tomorrow, and so we've pulled our area where the possibility of severe storms exists a little bit closer to the hills as well. In fact, in the Pikes Peak region, up against the hills onto the slopes of Pikes Peak, they're just a little more likely to be severe as they move off to the east. So watch what happens here on Thursday. The day will start off pretty quiet. As we hit the late part of the morning, we start to see some clouds build. We start to see some thunderstorms develop. And then by the middle part of the afternoon, things are going here. So we should have several cells that are in the process of moving away from the mountains. And notice how they are going to get stronger as they move off to the east. So let me take you back here slowly from noon until the middle part of the afternoon. We hit 3 o'clock. Then I'm going to take you into the late part of the afternoon and notice how the coverage of storms increases. And they're getting stronger as they move off to the east. These storms tomorrow could produce some large hail to around 2 inches in diameter and also some wind gusts around 65 miles per hour. This is going to be our most widespread day of thunderstorms over the eastern plains. And then as we head into the evening, like what we're going to see tonight, things will get quieter. And then there's one more day of thunderstorms on the way for Friday. And this is when we start to bring some of that cooler air in. We're down into the low 80s for Colorado Springs. We're around 90 for Pueblo, mountains and valleys. Again, we're not changing too much. And we again have the chance of some severe weather, mainly east of the mountains. The signal's not as strong on Friday as what we have out there tomorrow. And I don't think there will be as many storms because we start to get into this drying pattern here. And that's because as we head into the weekend, the area of high pressure that we have off to our south right now, it starts moving. So let me show you how that ends up changing here as we head through the weekend. And so I'm going to start us off tomorrow, and I'm going to take us through the weekend into next week. And I'm going to do it on the large scale because what happens on the large scale impacts what we get locally. And so notice that as we hit the weekend here, this high starts to shift up to the north. And you can see the black lines kind of heading northward with it. As that happens, and again, we have this clockwise circulation around this area of high pressure, we start bringing drier air in from the north. And so we'll shut off the chance of thunderstorms and we'll start to get hot because we'll have fewer clouds around. As we get into next week, this high is really, really strong here over the middle part of the country. So you have this almost continental sort of scale clockwise flow happening, and there's a lot of moisture down here to the south that's going to start getting pulled up on the west side of this high. And for the first part of the week, it looks like that is going to be off to the west of Colorado, or certainly on the western side of the Continental Divide. And then as we head into the late part of next week, maybe that starts inching a little bit closer to our eastern mountains and toward the Front Range a little bit. So eventually we'll start to get some clouds back into the forecast and the numbers will drop. What's looking less and less exciting than it did 4 or 5 days ago is the thickness and quality of that moisture. Central and western Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico all need an active monsoon. There's deep drought over the western United States. And so what looked like it was going to be a pretty good middle part of the month is starting to not look as active, and that's not necessarily good news. So that's, something we don't want to see because we need this water. All right. I am going to take some comments from you guys. I forgot to turn on the social media comments before I started this, and I want to give you an opportunity to participate here. So I'm going to pull our streams up and see what social comments you all have participated in here this afternoon. Leon is asking if rain made it into the fire area, and Leon, it did. We'll come back to that here because we still have a flash flood warning that is in effect for the Aspen Acres fire. It's the first of many that we are going to have. So you can see that over the last 2 hours, we've had some thunderstorms in the area. And I'm going to leave your comment up, and actually I'm going to get it out of the way because it's the south end of the fire that has been kind of most impacted by that. But you can see that the activity, especially on the south end and then just to the north of the fire, has gotten a little bit more intense. And I'm going to take the radar off because we do have the burn scar on here. And now I will go ahead and I'll annotate where the edge of this cell is right now, because we are getting some rain on the northeastern part of the fire. And this is kind of delineating some moderate rain from some lighter rain. And so again, if I take that radar off, you can see on the north end there, we're catching some. And we're at least getting some sprinkles in the middle part of the fire. But it has been enough with that south end that we had a flash flood warning that was issued earlier. And that flash flood warning is in effect here through the course of the evening. It's in effect for Beulah area, an area off to the south. Obviously, these areas are evacuated here, but on the south end, we've got some people back into Colorado City now, and this is in effect until 7 o'clock tonight. There is a new flash flood warning on the north end for that cell that's hitting the fire right now, and this one is in effect until 8:30. And so debris flows are possible, mud flows are possible, and like we said, this is going to be the first of quite a few of these that we end up seeing. Richard is asking if it is safe to travel from Colorado Springs to Monte Vista. Yeah, you can head over La Vita Pass. The sheephead fire that was in that area is doing okay. Shireen's asking if there will be enough financial help for these victims. I think that's something that will kind of get organized here over the next several weeks and months. There may be some federal assistance as well, since, you know, it's the nation's #1 priority fire, so we'll have to work on that. And Patricia says thanks for the coverage. And Green Bay Barb, I was talking about this with Deputy Hunter today. We did both comment on how we are thankful that there has not been a loss of life. In particular, that first day, the stories that he told me about how people were running, and some of the people who, when they told them there was an evacuation, decided not to go, and then things half hour later had gotten, you know, hairy enough that they decided to leave. That I agree with you 100%, but I think it's great that there was no loss of life with that. So that has been this special live edition of Peaks2Plains Weather. We will run the couple of pieces that we have from inside the fire on the Peaks2Plains Weather 24-hour channel tonight into tomorrow. I will have the interview with Sheriff Smith tomorrow morning, Mornings with Meister at 6:30. And we will also have kind of the look that I had where the fire was burning really, really hot. And you can see that the soils, like there's nothing on the forest floor, and how hydrophobic they are and how susceptible to ash and debris flows parts of the fire are going to be. So thanks for being with us here. We would appreciate it if you find value in what we're doing, if you would share it with your friends, your family, tell them about Peaks2Plains Weather, tell them they can watch our channel on Roku and Fire TV. The channel's in the app on the homepage. It is on Peaks2PlainsWeather.com. Peaks2Plains Weather is on YouTube. When we do live things, when the weather threatens, we do it together on social media as well. So Mary and Rachel and I are trying to serve our community in a better, more direct, more intimate way than we've been able to do before. And so we'd appreciate it if you would help us to spread the word. That is this special edition of Peaks2Plains Weather. I appreciate it, and I'll see you tomorrow morning on Mornings with Meister.
This is John May, General Manager of Petrale Roofing, up on another customer's roof doing a free 21-point inspection. If you'd like us to take a look at your roof, give us a call today, 719-375-8773. We'd be happy to take a look and see the condition of your roof. Petrale Roofing, we're a Diamond certified TAMCO installer, which means we can offer a industry-leading 25-year workmanship warranty to give you peace of mind in the storm. Call Petrale Roofing, 719-375-8773. Schedule your free inspection today.
Love your yard with a new outdoor space from F&D Landscaping. From a new build to a new project in an existing yard, we listen and give you the yard you want within your budget. Lawns, water features, xeriscaping. We've got the artistic touch and technical know-how to bring the peak of Colorado outdoor living to your home. Reliable, trustworthy. Visit fblandscape.com to schedule a free consultation.
Emergencies are unpredictable, but you don't have to be unprepared. Peak Alerts sends you targeted emergency alerts in real time for evacuation orders, law enforcement activity, missing persons, and more. Choose up to 5 locations that matter to you, like home, work, and school, so you know what's going on and what to do next. It's free, easy to set up, and designed to keep you in control. Know first, act fast. That's the power of Peak Alerts.
At Phil Long Ford Motor City, we've been around for 80 years. That's like 560 in dog years.
To say thank you to our loyal customers, it's employee pricing for all. You pay what we pay. Our way of celebrating Colorado's 150th anniversary and America's 250th birthday.
American value for American values. You pay what we pay, right, boys?
That's right. Only at the original Phil Long Ford store.